But as I was saying before about this, going toe to toe, this is the path of least resistance. It's the least effective and only serves to reinforce the negative behavior of the strongest personality, and it continues the demise of the person not speaking up.
Sure does.
You may not know what it is that you need to set a boundary. You may not know what you need to nail them down on it. Do you need the facts, the time, the day that things happened? Do you need a witness? Then what if you talk to this person and they just blow you off and not take you seriously? What if you look like the fool?
And that's a big concern of people too, not being sure.
The better we feel and the healthier we get, the more apt we are to speak our truth. It always is uncomfortable at first. It very much was for me. But through time and practice, it will get much easier, and I'm proof of that.
And that's the absolute truth. When we begin to learn the skills, and we're going to go through the 10 ways at the end of or before we bring Natalie on, and it does start small. It starts with one little skill and building confidence, and then moving on from there. So we're going to next talk about some examples of unhealthy and healthy boundaries, so you can make a better determination for yourself. Some examples of unhealthy boundaries are telling all about yourself too soon. You meet the person and all of a sudden they've just vomited their whole entire life story on you.
You know more about them than you knew about your last relationship.
I'm not laughing because I've done that. I have been that person.
We've all been that person,
okay.
Love. It's okay.
Trusting no one, getting too close, too inappropriate, touching. If you meet the people that they have to be touching you, they're in your face, they get too close right off the bat. Talking on an intimate level at inappropriate times. People that like to talk about sex all the time, or people that like to talk about some type of interaction all the time in an environment that's not conducive to that. Also noticing when someone invades your boundaries, you're not really paying attention. Being sexual for your partner and not for yourself, not having your own needs met. Going against your personal values and morals. And that's what we're going to talk about too, is that when we go against our morals and values, we have a certain feeling that goes along with that. And that can be a trigger to say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with the way this is feeling.
Right. And
there's also letting others control you, not allowing your personal needs to be met, playing the victim.
Oh, yes.
Excessive flirting and over-the-top attention-seeking. And the reason I added over-the-top attention-seeking is because we see this so much on Facebook. So much going on. I just knocked my microphone here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You'll be all right.
It almost just rolled right off of here.
Off the table.
That would
have been an interesting show.
Okay, go ahead.
So signs of a healthier boundaries. They would be things like standing up for yourself and what you believe in. Being able to say no, having your own beliefs and convictions, defining your truth as you see it, developing healthy trust, having respect for other people in their space, going slow with sex and intimacy, not acting out of impulse, saying no to gifts, offers, sex, or anything else that you don't want. My father used to always say, or I found this out after he had passed away, one of his big catchphrases was, if I knew that came with strings attached, I wouldn't have accepted it.
Oh, that is the quintessential thing. If someone's going to give you something and there's something attached to it,
it's not worth having.
No, it's not.
It's more a shackle than it is a gift.
Yes.
So, other areas of deciding whether or not you like someone before getting into a relationship, not continually trying to be the center of attention, or just being kind to yourself and others.
That's a big challenge for a lot of people. I knocked my thing here. I'm sorry. That's
okay.
This thing is
we can fix it during the break.
Okay.
So, did we want to take a little break here?
We did. I just wanted to talk about some of these ones on here just a little bit.
Okay.
The not acting on impulse, that's one of those situations where we get into addiction, sex addiction and love addiction. That's those impulsive behaviors. And so often we see ourselves or feel ourselves acting on impulse towards something. When you feel that, that can be a trigger too, to say, hey, you know what, I need to slow down with this. I need to pull back. Definitely.
Yes, it definitely can. So we're going to take a break and pause for station identification, and we'll be right back with the physical and emotional signs that you need to set boundaries and for areas of your life that are affected the most. You're listening to Heart with the Hansons.
It's amazing the ways you got me blazing these trails, the ways you taking me through when I was afraid of myself, to show me what I ain't seen and tell me what I ain't heard. You put your hooks inside of me, so honestly I can't work, cause I don't hide no more, and now I know that I can be the man that I planned. Since you found who I am and fell in love with me, the part of my life that I was once missing, and now I see you clearly, fearfully, you wonderfully. No true or two time, it's like an empty hourglass, pissing against the grain, the twisted sigma systems, coward ass. Whatever they deem is normal, go from, we'll just go around hand in hand, and if I get too crazy, baby, hold me down, hold me close, hold me tight, and don't let go of me, because I love to feel the motion of your body's poetry and rhythmic excellence. Synchronize the breath, we spend the best of many nights sweating, bless us, set the precedence. Now
doesn't matter what they want, doesn't matter what they need.
It doesn't matter what they say to me, because our eyes is open to what they afraid to see. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we cry, don't matter if we
It doesn't matter if we fly or we fall, because it's you and me, baby, us against them all. And if we hold on through the night before dawn, it'll never be the same old song. Know that. And if we keep it cool together, we'll see it through until the end, 'cause we believe in me and you, and that's what it's
Okay, and welcome back to Heart, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Kristen Hanson, and we just got done speaking about what boundaries are and ways to identify people that have unhealthy boundaries versus healthy boundaries. Now we're going to move into the physical and emotional indicators that our boundaries have been violated. And we're going to talk about how our personalities change when we don't set limits and give expectations to others of how we want to be treated. But first, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Number one, when I think of speaking my truth, what other thoughts show up for me as well?
That was a pretty good one, because this is a lot of what this last week was about, was speaking my truth. And it really did make me question a lot of things. And one of the biggest questions I had was, why did I go so long before I did this? After feeling so empowered from it, why did I let these opportunities, I'm not saying conflicts, I'm not saying fights, I'm saying opportunities go by. This was an opportunity for me to shine, and I didn't take it.
Well, sometimes we don't. A lot of it comes from just really, like we talked about earlier with you, you really didn't know what to do. You wanted to.
I was kind of lost.
And you weren't really sure what road to take. How do I start? What information do I need? Where do I need to be? And the reason I'm asking these questions is because when we think of speaking our truth, what other thoughts come up? Is this tied to another belief that we have? Is this tied to something that happened in the past? Is this tied to a previous experience? Did we at one time say something to stand up for ourselves, and someone really gave us a hard time about it, or screamed at us, or did we get hurt or hit in some way that would have caused us to shrink back whenever we thought we were going to be in a confrontational situation?
Right.
So part of coaching teaches us, if you're afraid in this area and you think about standing up or speaking your truth, what immediately comes to mind for you? Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it intimidation? What types of things are happening with you?
I think if you were really to nail it down, for me, it was anxiety.
Oh,
I would
okay.
get filled with a rush of anxiety, and I'd be jittery and shaky. You get that adrenaline going.
Yeah.
But instead of turning it into something that could work for me, I allowed it to be something to control me.
Okay, and that happens quite often with people, quite often. And it was like that for me in my early years. I'd be afraid to. I didn't want to be the uncool one, or I didn't want to be the one to start problems. And I was afraid because people would either yell at me or hurt me, so I just learned to
kind of clam up.
Yeah. Okay, the second question is, when people talk down to me or say things to hurt my feelings, where do I feel it in my body?
That's a good one. I usually feel it in my stomach first.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel it in my chest too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like someone punched you right in the center of the chest. It just knocks the wind out of you.
And is that feeling associated with other feelings of the past? When we talk about our feelings, usually we have our feelings somewhere in our body. It shows up. It may be, in your head. It could be a headache. It could be a stomach ache. It could be a backache. But usually we have a go-to pain.
My go-to pain is usually in my stomach, and
Mine
I also
too.
have stomach issues.
Right.
I've had stomach issues in the past with ulcers and things like that.
And I'd be wondering how much of that would have to do with hanging on to all these issues and not releasing them. How much of that has backed up into your body? Because we're going to talk about that too, how when we don't confront confront, or not confront, but when we don't talk to people and set limits with them, we end up holding all that anxiety. They're off doing what they want to do, but we're the ones sitting here feeling sick.
And it can make you sick.
Absolutely.
It can manifest itself into physical illness.
Sure can.
From what we've learned from the stress management class, some of these stresses can really have some big medical effects on you. I mean, outside of having a stroke or a heart attack, we're talking even just stomach issues.
Oh, it can turn into, this is how a lot of the beginning stages of cancer and serious illnesses are. These cells start to migrate differently, and it can be the very beginnings of serious illness. And then number 3, when people ask me to do things that I don't want to do, what does that do to my spirit? Do I shrink inside? Do I withdraw? Do I get angry? And the reason I ask that is because when people generally ask us to do things that we're not comfortably doing, whether it be running to the store or, something sexual, if someone's violating our boundaries sexual or wanting to touch us in ways we're not comfortable, we kind of get that. I would get that sick feeling, that withdrawing kind of, and my spirit would just shrink and go away. And for so long, I didn't have any type of spirit.
I know for me, I tend to have the withdrawn feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tend to get, that sick feeling. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a feeling of my spirit being crushed down and feeling small.
Yes.
Feeling like you're just small.
Insignificant.
You're insignificant.
Yes.
You're not worth anything. And then with me, it can get kind of funny because in later years in life, it would manifest itself into anger at other times because I'm building resentment.
You're building resentment if that anger is boiling up. It's because it's going to come out somewhere. It's going to manifest.
Like a volcano. It'll find its way to the surface.
Absolutely. It will. So when we're in this constant state of flux and uncertainty, it does affect us emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally. It leads us to become people we never anticipated to be. It can make us very dark and make us very negative. I found myself becoming exactly what I didn't want to be, an angry, bitter old woman. And that's what a lot of these circumstances has turned me into, just someone that's just, absolutely just PO'd all the time. And I asking myself, why am I so angry? When we were researching the show, I really started to realize symptoms coming through is, oh my gosh, this is what I've been feeling. Is that what this is? Is this why I'm so angry? It started to make so much sense. It seems every show we do, there's always a spiritual purpose behind it.
There's always learning experiences behind it.
Sure, go ahead. So we're going to talk about some of the symptoms and some of the ways that we may feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically when we don't speak our truth and set limits with people.
So here is a big one that was one of mine, was you feel guilt when you tell someone no.
Sure.
That was a big one for me.
That can be, people feel guilt, they feel shame, they feel bad, and the person's come to ask them something and all you're doing is saying no, and you're taking on all of this.
I would feel like I didn't try.
Yeah, and it wasn't even up to us to even make that decision. We can just say yes or no without any explanation. No, thank you, or yes, I can.
Exactly.
End of story. Number 2 is you're in a constant state of frustration, anger, and stress. You're continually frustrated with your own needs not being met, which leads to anger, which leads to unnecessary stress. And that's what was happening to me. I was getting frustrated. I was getting angry. It was building to my stress level. It was acting out of my body. All areas of my life were getting so affected by this.
Wow. Then the next, you become jealous. You begin to look at other people who are seemingly healthy and have healthy boundaries, and you become jealous of their lifestyle. You're jealous that you're not happy like they are.
Yes, and number 4, you become resentful. Your anger and jealousy have now turned to resentment. You get resentful towards these people, and then you also get resentful towards innocent people.
Mm-hmm. And that was with me. That was one of my manifesting points, was becoming resentful. Then you become judgmental. You begin to silently judge those who violate your boundaries.
Yes, and then you begin to label and punish people. You create names and titles for these people, often unpleasant ones. You may even opt to punish them in some way or conspire to get back to them.